And welcome in. I'm Dave Rothenberg, and this is Dave Rothenberg's Giants Obsession. And I feel much more in control today. I apologize for what you saw on Sunday evening. It was a reaction after a disastrous loss, of course, on the road to Dallas, where the Giants led and should have won that game. I mean, you played that game 50 times. Giants should have won that game 48 times. That happened to be one of the two that they were unable to win. And then Monday, I still kind of had that hangover from the pain of what we saw on Sunday. But today feels much calmer, much better. I think I've come to grips with things. And one of my all-time favorite Giants is going to join us, the great Carl Banks. We'll do that in about 5 minutes. I want to kind of set the stage for what we have today and read over kind of I guess the menu of Dave Rothenberg's Giants Obsession. But Carl was, man, I remember there was a time, and I'll bring Carl on in a few minutes and discuss it. Like there was Lawrence Taylor was like a godlike in my house, just the way he played football. And there was a time, and I'll tell Carl this, and I think he'll put a smile on his face, where my dad walked into the room one day and said, "You know what? What, Dad?" And my dad loved the Giants and didn't say a lot about them, but when he did, you listened. Said, "You know what? What, Dad?" He goes, "I think Lawrence Taylor has been caught by Carl Banks as far as who the best linebacker in football is." And I just remember thinking, wow, that is quite a statement to make. So we'll get to Carl in just a few moments. Love him. He's on the Giants broadcast, of course. And I mean, just a good friend and a great analyst and a great football player. So what we saw on Sunday was painful. And now you have to kind of, and we got to ask Carl this, like at what point, I think as a fan, it's different than how a player deals with it. At what point do you switch from you're in the moment of the prior game to the game that's coming up the next week? And I think for me, it's like a Wednesday, Thursday. Like as I start to look ahead and, you start to look at the Thursday game, you start to really kind of have the thoughts in your mind about the next game. Players probably turn the page much quicker. It takes me time. And players also may not enjoy the celebration as much as the fan does. Like I think players oftentimes, like you show up on Monday or Tuesday, if you have Monday off, and you're quickly now looking at the next team. As a fan of the Giants, I'll spend 2, 3, 4 days kind of ensconcing, enjoying in the win that just happened. So we're going to do Stump Rothenberg today. It's a segment we do on my radio show, and it really has taken off. And we'll do that a little bit later on. But if you have a question, of course, comments, questions, the whole thing, you can get involved down at the lower left. You can like, subscribe, throw your questions, comments, all of it. Cowboys, that's such a tough loss. And I think what makes that loss worse is that it was the Cowboys, right? Like to lose a game like that is painful and nauseating, and all those things are true. To lose a game like that to the Cowboys, boy, it really doesn't get worse. And I saw a stat, I had seen it, and then the Nico Steve intern duo sent this in the group text that we do, and it was like kickers attempting 60-yarders in the final moments of regulation are 61. But when it's the Giants as the opposition, they're 3 for 3. And I think it's Jake Elliott. This is all off my memory. Jake Elliott in Philly nailed a long field goal against the Giants. I'm confident it's Graham Gano who did it for Carolina. And then, of course, it's Brandon Aubrey from the other day. But it's nauseating to think about 60-yard field goals. And we'll talk to Carl about this as well. I mean, it didn't exist when I was a kid. The Bills had this massively long 47-yard field goal in Super Bowl 25 that was like so long you didn't know if he could make it or not. And he didn't, thank God. I want to look at the Chiefs for a moment, and then we'll bring Carl in. It kind of feels like, and I know we're so prisoner of the moment, it feels like Kansas City has lost a lot of luster to what they've had. It feels like maybe they're not the same team, but I'm wary of this. They still have Mahomes. They still have Andy Reid. They still have Chris Jones. They're still a big moment team, and they're 0-2. So they kind of went through a lot of the motions last season of, do we really need to go all out and win this game? It felt like they went through the motions. They're 0-2. You can't fall 3 games behind the Chargers, 3 games into the season. Your season be on the verge of not being the division winner. You're going to get the best effort, an A-level effort from Kansas City. And I get it that they're banged up, right? Rashee Rice is suspended and Xavier Worthy may not play. But again, this is you talk about being tested. You talk about having like championship mettle. That's exactly what this team has. And they've had it for quite some time. And I'd be surprised if you didn't get a really, really good effort from Kansas City on Sunday night. And not only are they 0-2, but the entire nation gets to see this one, right? It's a nationally televised game. So they're a terrific football team. They're very well coached. And I know that we may turn the page on Pat Mahomes. Don't make a mistake. He's still an elite quarterback. We'll get to all the stuff. We'll do Stump Rothenberg. We'll go comments. We'll go questions. We'll look at the offense. We'll do fantasy waiver wire. We'll look at my locks through the first 2 weeks, which have been anything but locks. And then we'll send you on your way and get you ready for Friday's show. Let's bring him in. When you think about the great linebackers in Giants history, this guy, it's Lawrence, it's Harry Carson, Brian Kelly, Brad Van Pelt, but my guy, Carl Banks, joins us here. Carl, thank you. You're a great guy. You're a true friend, and I appreciate a few minutes today.
Dave, thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we launched this a couple weeks ago. It's starting to gain traction. We're very excited about it. You are, one of my favorites. And you know what I really do appreciate and love about you is your honesty. It's like you call the games on radio, you do a really good job, but you're not going to sugarcoat it. If you see an issue, if you have a problem with something, you're going to call it like you see it. And I think that's terrific for you. So the first thing I want to ask you about, all right, which drove me crazy, and as a former player must have driven you crazy, was James Hudson. What happened? Have you ever seen anything like that before?
I think we saw a crash out in real life, in real time, and at a big moment. I think he had a case of the nerves, and it was a combination of just one thing after another. Thank goodness they had somebody that they could put in there and stabilize the offense. But it was the weirdest thing, and the kid always plays close to the edge. The procedural call was one thing, and then the personal foul. I'm sure he didn't try to hit the dude in the head, but he hit him in the head, right? The guy was falling down, and he was going to slap him regardless because that's just who he is. But when you're the type of team that the Giants are, your margin of error is so slim anyway that you don't want to kill your opportunities. And then, I think they made a decision collectively, that offense, because with everything that was going on with all those penalties, they were making plays, and then they were shooting themselves in the foot. I think they collectively said, "To hell with this. Let's stabilize this and just get to work," because there's some plays to be made against Dallas. And Russell uncorked the offense, and it was a lot of fun to see because you could, the things that we thought that Brian Daboll would be able to do offensively when he first got to the Giants, you saw that in the preseason, and then you saw it for the first time against a quality Dallas Cowboy team. Yeah, they had some guys out, but so did the Giants, but they lined up, and, they have players that are hard to deal with, right? Neighbors is a difficult cover, but then you've got now Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a vertical threat, which I'm pretty sure Dallas thought he was going to be the guy that ran all the crossing routes. And then Darius Slayton, they've got speed, and the offensive line did a really good job of protecting Russell so that they could get the ball down the football field.
So we saw week one was not good from the Giants offensively. We saw week two was, 450 yards. Russell Wilson is, Hall of Fame quarterback, but certainly a quarterback that you look at as a really, really good career NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's ever had a game like that. Carl, two completely different ends of the spectrum. What are the Giants? Are they week one? Are they week two? Or more likely, are they somewhere down the middle of that?
I think if this offensive line stays healthy, they are what you saw in the preseason and what you saw in week two. Week one was so triggering to not only the fan base, but to myself, because, that was the offense that looked stuck in the mud. That's what we saw so much last year. And then, Indianapolis happened, and I'm like, this is what, fans should expect from this offense. And people thought I was crazy. But I was like, Indy had something to play for. And then they first game, they looked like the the hard, difficult to move the ball offense. And I just said, I think it's going to just the preseason was not a mirage. I thought that, some of the things that they were doing, utilizing their speed was going to carry over into the regular season, and it did. And I think that's what we should expect. If this offensive line can block, there's going to be more of that because they've just got really tough covers on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, Neighbors is a star in the making. We're talking on my radio show this morning, Carl, and I said, I didn't think he was in that top tier of receivers. I think I've slowly changed my mind. I think that he is. I actually, what do you think?
Yeah.
Jefferson, not in order, but Jefferson, Chase. I mean, I think he's right there. I think he's on the level, maybe Puka Nacua with those guys because he really is a star.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's ascending too. He's just now starting to really get a grasp of some of the nuance of the NFL, and he's the real deal. I don't know where to rank him, but he's a hard cover, and he's gonna be the toughest problem any defender has when they play the Giants.
The running game was mediocre in game 1. It was mediocre in game 2. The passing game was clearly better in game 2. Is this something that has to start clicking for this Giants to be a complete offense? You can't just rely on the downfield threat every single time, right?
No, you can't, Dave, but I think what you have to, those numbers sometimes can be misleading if it's if you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish, right? So when you look at the total number of runs per quarter, I think it was like 11, right? All 4 quarters, 11, 11, 11. That gives you balance, right? So they didn't abandon the run even though they weren't getting the type of yardage that they wanted, but it kept them on schedule. And I don't know how many of their runs went for losses. They may not have gone for big gains, but when you can get across the line of scrimmage, when you know you want to pass the football, you run the football so that they have to play it honest because Tyrone Tracy can run the football. You saw the breakout of Cam Scatterboo, right? So those guys put on film. Now, Kansas City's going to have to deal with that, right? And so if they have the balance and they run the ball 40 times a game, that's, you would want more yardage, but it sets up all the other stuff that you saw. And you'll crack a 35-yarder, just like Scatterboo did. You stay at it long enough, and then the pass set up the run. So they were running to get to the pass, and then the pass really set up the run for them in those situations.
Did you like the way the Giants used Jackson Dart in this game?
Phil Simms we were out to dinner, and he made a really interesting point. He says, yeah, grooming a kid is, getting him ready for whenever is cool, but you give him a couple games standing on the sideline, he loses interest. He says, so I think by getting him involved in the game keeps him engaged in the process, right? Because at the end of the day, he's one injury away from being a vital part of this offense. So I think that's part of the integration process for him, is to just start to get him in some games. And even if he's handing the football off, he has to stay engaged now because he doesn't know when they're going to put him in to do that. So, and I think those packages will expand, which, just gives defenses one more thing to prepare for. But yeah, I think it's going to expand, but I don't think they're going to hand the reins over to him as long as Russell's playing the way he's playing right now.
All right, so Carl, let's go from the offense, which was they really, really good. And Giants fans, no football fan expects the team to throw like that. Giants fans have never seen like that. Is so far into the Giants fan to see them throw for 400 plus yards. Let's look at the defense a little bit. I had this expectation, and maybe it was an unfair expectation, that with those guys, with Thibodeau and Lawrence and Burns and Abdul Carter and Okereke and improving the secondary, that the defense was going to be really, really good. It wasn't really, really good this past week. It was better in week 1. What happened that they regressed? And is it just they got worn down? Because I thought the pass rush, especially in like pure passing downs, Carl, would be better for the Giants.
I never buy into the they got tired theory, because the same guys are on the other side of the football too, right? So I think there's a lot of undisciplined play, not reckless, but things that prevent you from being your best as a defense. And I don't know if you knew this, but all but two series, the first two series of regulation, and I think coming out of the third quarter, were the only series. So it was three series in the entire game that defense played without penalty. So every time they did something good, there's tack on yardage, there's second chance yardage, right? So if you got a first and 10 or a third and 6 and they get 12 yards, okay, you live to fight another down. You just make it difficult. But then you tack on another 15. So now you just took a quarter of the football field in one play. You just gave up a chunk play. And so every series they had one of those, with the exception of the first two of the game and coming out at halftime. You can't play defense that way. When you cut on the film, you see a lot of disruption. And you say, they're too good to be the 32nd ranked defense. But then you see the reasons why they're the 32nd ranked defense. It's the inconsistency. It's poor tackling at times. I don't advocate coaches being fired. I root for coaches. And I do believe that Shane Bowen is a competent head defensive coordinator, but the 2nd and 10 at the end of the game, right? Let's just say they probably never should have got into that. But the fact that they did get into it and the coverage that they had, I don't know how they coached it, but I saw a lot of things that should have been different, right? If you're playing sticks defense and they need 20 yards to get this kicker in the 60-yard range, if you're playing sticks, play the sticks. Don't retreat behind the sticks. That's a cliff, right? So the ball is snapped. The number one thing I would have done, and I'm not second guessing them, but it was a failed, it was failed.
Clearly.
So I can offer my opinion. And this is my opinion. First and foremost, if I'm going to play that, the first thing I have to do is understand where my defense is most vulnerable out of that schematic. That's the middle of the field. Who's the biggest threat to that? It's the tight end. Okay, I'm going to tell my linebacker, who has no work for 15 yards, go jam and carry the tight end. He's going to look for him first. If you do that alone, that's going to make it more difficult for the quarterback. Secondly, hey, folks, if we tell you to stand at the sticks when the ball is snapped, don't back up 5 yards. Stand at the sticks. I mean, literally, the tight end ran past the sticks, caught the ball at 18, and these guys were just coming out of their break. So it's a fail. Look, and I don't know how they coached it. And that is one play, but it just happens to stand out as the one that cost them the game, or that cost them the opportunity to win the game. Now, people will say, well, Shane Bowen didn't miss tackles, right? There were a lot of situations where it was user error throughout the game. Shane Bowen doesn't commit penalties. But we do know this, Dave. I don't have to say a coach should be fired or not. If you don't get it fixed with the amount of money that they invested on that side of the football, then those things take care of themselves. I want him to have success. I want them to have success. I was with Dexter Lawrence about an hour ago, and I just went up to him and I said, listen, you guys are too good to be where you are. And he agreed. I'm like, you guys got to be asked. Can I curse on this?
Yeah, you can.
I said, you guys got to be assholes to each other. You got to hold each other accountable. And I said, it's the little things. And you said, how long does it take for a player to get over it? They should not be over Dallas, right? Everything that's wrong with their defense showed up in Dallas, right? Dallas has a red zone run, 35 yards, guy goes in untouched. 10 guys played it right. One guy misses a tackle. Hey, Tyler Nubin, I think he's got the skill and ability. But the word on the street now, because you see it on the internet streets or the Twitter streets, is that he's got a little DWI in him. You know what that is, Dave?
Oh, he doesn't want it hit?
Don't want it. DWI, don't want it. I know differently. But when you have a play where everybody does it right and you got the running back coming through, you take a bad angle and miss the tackle and it goes for a touchdown. That's one of those deals. I know he stood up and took accountability for it. But these are the things where you say, well, we don't want to have this conversation again, right? We want to make sure that everybody is on this. We want to make sure that when we do it right, it's 10 plus 1, 11, and that ball goes nowhere. That's kind of the era of football that I was raised in. It's kind of the era of coaching and player accountability, right? And, I love talking football with our good friend Bart Scott too, because he's of a generation of the same generation, right? And he's coached by Rex, and Buddy was in my era, and I know his players and how they looked and saw football and held each other accountable, as well as their coaching staff, right? If a coach had a bad play, he'd stand up in the meeting, I screwed you guys on this one, right? And here's what we got to do. Dan Duggan, I think, posted it's getting late early. And he's correct. It's late, but it's still early. So there is some things that this defense can clean up, and then it's going to look real good. I mean, Dave, you take a look at the All-22. You look at Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. They show up every play. Dexter Lawrence shows up every single play. They are disruptive. But for the penalties somewhere else or a procedure call in 51, he's disruptive. It's hard you can't allocate resources to those 4 kids. Somebody is going to have an opportunity, in every single down, those players go like it's going to be their opportunity. They don't wait to see, well, who's going to block who's not going to. They just go. It's like they throw the meat out there and the Rottweilers just go. And whoever they allocate resources to, those other guys are going to be at the quarterback. You look at the Dallas game, it was like that the entire game. But they got to clean it up. The other aspect of it, and I said this coming out of training camp, none of that, what I just said, is going to matter if they can't stop the run, right? And that's another thing. They're down linebackers now too. Bobby Okereke is the only healthy one they have left, and they're just bringing guys in for the second level of their defense. But, if you're Kansas City, you're not saying this is our get right game, right? Some things have got to go wrong for the Giants. And look, Kansas City is that team that will make things go wrong. They can make you have a bad day. But the aura, the Kansas City aura, when they walk in that stadium, it ain't the Kansas City Chiefs. Not that they can't be, but you want to get them where they are now. Because in 2 more weeks, they're going to get it all figured out, and it's going to be hell for the rest of the league. But the aura, the Kansas City aura right now, it ain't quite what it's going to be in a few more weeks.
And it's not what it's been, too, right? I mean, in the past.
But they always figure it out.
Always,
you never discount Andy Reid. He always figures it out.
Always.
and he's got Patrick Mahomes. But right now is the time because you're doing some things and putting things on tape that they've got to really respect, right? They've got to respect the long ball and the receivers that are running them, because that looks like when Mahomes had Tyreek Hill in that group. I mean, so they've got to honor that. They've got to honor the disruption up front by the Giants' defensive front. And so the aura that they walk in with is not the same as it's going to be. And the Giants, they put things on tape that Kansas City is going to have to honor, but it's up to the Giants to execute. It's up to them to have the discipline, the situational awareness, the coaching situational awareness as well, to make sure that they do everything right. You can't do a lot of things wrong in the league, period, and expect to have success. But against a team like Kansas City, who can find a play when they need one, you've got to have a heightened sense of your situational awareness, because they will trick you when you're tired. And I saw that. I saw a play where they needed to get a stop the Giants, and Brian Burns, a little gassed, takes the inside route, gets blocked, and he's on one knee just patting his chest like, my bad. You can't have my bad, right? You got to be, and the thing, it's a trick. And if you talk to any football player that's any good, and again, Bart is a sounding board for all of us, he'll tell you when you're tired is when you play your technique. When you're fresh is when you can kind of take the chances. But when you're fatigued and they can't block you anyway, right? If they can't block you when you're doing it right and you're fresh, when you are fatigued, just play your technique. They can't block you. You make it easy for them to block you when you try to take a shortcut, and they're like, oh, great. I didn't think I was going to be able to block him, but he went inside and I just pushed him, right, and there goes the ball. These are the little things that are correctable with the Giants, but these are conversations they got to have, right? It ain't my bad and it never comes up again. This is the type of shit that you got to talk about. Like, if you want to be the defense that you're capable of and that you guys say you want to be, you got to have these conversations every day in every meeting. It's not, hey, Tyler Nubin, we played the power perfect and we know you missed the tackle. It's all good. Nope, it ain't all good. It's no longer acceptable, right? And if you're Brian Burns, it's the same thing. He knows he screwed it up,
right?
But he's got to say, this is not the standard. And I'm not doing this again. And we're going to talk about this if you see me doing it again.
When you see Abdul Carter, you mentioned 51. And I mean, the fanfare surrounding him was maybe even too much, right? I mean, top defensive player taken and just the excitement over him. Great. And I think he's going to be a star. But I look at your opinion as holding such weight because, I mean, you were a linebacker and you were a great linebacker. You played with great linebackers. And I know it's 2 games and I don't think this is what he'll wind up being. He's got a lot of room to improve and a lot of growth. But what have you seen 2 games into his NFL career that you like and that you don't like?
Well, I think he's been disruptive. I think he's been disruptive as a pass rusher, even though he's getting close. And there are times where you'll see teams double team him. There were times where Dallas double teamed him and Kayvon and Brian Burns got there. But what I like about him, and it's not quite consistent, is that he wants to be a complete player. You look at his technique versus the run, he ain't just out there just so he can get the 3rd down. He knows if a ball comes his way in terms of the run, he's got to play the right technique, and he does it. And he does it well. And that's the part that makes me really excited about him, because he's so instinctive that once the pace of the game gets really figured out for him, it's going to be ridiculous, because he already knows how to do it right. And then doing it right and doing it at the next level right is something that will even be more disruptive. And when I say, and this is not a Lawrence Taylor comparison, but it's the instincts of someone of that caliber of athlete and ability. Lawrence would do things and you would ask him, how did you do that? What did you do? And he'll be like, I don't know. I have to go look at the film.
Mm-hmm.
But if his job was to set the edge, he might have did something that just looked spectacular, but he ended up setting the edge and you're like, wow, that was incredible. What did you do? I don't know. That's kind of the Abdul Carter at times. You see him and how he moves. He doesn't overthink anything. He just plays football. He understands he's a super smart kid. So he understands what his responsibilities are, but how he gets from point A to point B ain't like the rest of us.
I did not, Carl, want him to wear 56. I didn't even like the fact that he asked to wear 56. This is your guy. This is your running mate. Where you're like, hang on a second, that belongs to one guy. What was your take on that?
Yeah, as my mother's generation would say, bless his heart. It's okay for him to ask. I'm not mad at him for asking, but he kind of asked knowing he wasn't going to get that, and he didn't want that. He didn't want the pressure that came with that anyway. If he were to wear 56 after someone as great as Lawrence Taylor and the things that Lawrence did as a rookie in the NFL, you wouldn't want to be under that scrutiny in New York because everything you did, you ain't living up to the number 56. I think the fact that he's wearing 51 is his chance to chart his own course. And, he's going to do a great job of just being Abdul Carter and wearing Abdul Carter's number.
Yep, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with you. This is driving me crazy. And I mentioned it when we went off on the top of the show. When I'm a kid, right, and I grew up, like when you're drafted, I was 11, like you and I are the same era. Field goals were not 60, like consistently 60 yards. And me, it feels very broken, Carl, because you bring it out to the 35, the guy can make a 68-yard field goal. You need 15 yards. Does it feel like something? And I'm not saying this is not sour grapes because I, of course, wanted the Giants to win and Aubrey comes out and hammers a 64-yarder. It's not because of that. It's just I want to see an offense have to accomplish something before they're in field goal range.
Yeah, you're one first down away, basically, or you're 20 yards away.
Yeah.
It's I'm not the conspiracy guy, but everything that we're seeing right now is supposedly in the quote unquote interest of safety. And when they give that report, right at Super Bowl, at the end of the year, they always give this safety report. It's all in the interest of getting to 18 games. They're going to say, well, it's safer here. Guys are not taking as much contact here. We had fewer injuries, and here are the historical numbers. Kickoffs, when they were doing this, we had X amount of injuries. And now that we've done this, players are safer. But this is all, listen, this is, I don't even know how to say it, but it's bigger than football. This is a for-profit business, and they have a mandate to grow this business every year. They were close to being plateaued, which wasn't a bad thing, but you can only go to your networks for so much money. But they wanted to make the product safer, more watchable. They did that. And then they found gambling partners, which, poured a whole lot more money in. And then they allowed, outside investors, institutional investors to come in. So what's next? Okay, we're going to add another game. And then what's next? Then we're going to probably have a regular season game in Europe every year. So it's all about growth for the game. And so if they can justify adding more and saying it's safer, then that's what they're going to do. I don't like it as a purist, but I understand it, right? And the thing is, Dave, You and I can sit and we can be, the grumpy old men from our era, right? Back in my day, it ain't that no more. And guess what? Everybody's playing by the same rules. So if you think you can win games with less offense and better special teams, then you got to go out and find you a kicker who can kick it 60 yards.
Yeah, I
But
guess play that game, right?
right. I mean, everybody's playing the same rules. So you can choose where you want to put your resources. And but just understand it's a for-profit business. We can talk about it until we're blue in the face. The players are going to make much more money, which I don't begrudge at all, as a result of all of this. And once they get the players to really accept the fact that it's going to be 18 games, it's just a matter of them negotiating how much of an increase in salary they're going to get and probably 2 more roster spots. But it's happening. It's coming. And these are the reasons why, because of this new kickoff rule and the safety of the game.
Switching gears a little bit here, and I'll let you go in a second. Certainly appreciate your time. Bill Belichick, head coach, North Carolina. Is this going to work? Are we going to get to the end of the season and say, see, he still does have it? Or are we going to get to the end of the season and say, what happened to Belichick?
I think Belichick is brutally honest when he talks about the job he has in front of him. I don't think he took it expecting it to turn around overnight. I think he took the job to develop young men, to develop future pros, because I think it won't be this year, but I'll give it to the middle of next season. You'll start to see pro-level offensive line play, pro-level organization skills. I think he just doesn't have a lot of talent, number one. But he'll get that because he's got a general manager in Mike Lombardi who'll go out and find the type of players. And, the beautiful part about those two together, and, Mike and I have a love-hate relationship. I love him to death, but he makes me crazy sometimes when he becomes the wise guy. But the one thing they do very well is they can scout other people's players. They never drafted well in New England, but boy, they could track players on other teams. And when they were available, they found the right guys to fit in. And then they were really good at putting supporting cast players around their best players. So I think it's going to work. I think Bill, Bill says he's in it to stay, he's going to be there until he hands it over to his kid, Stephen. But I think it's going to work out. It's the ACC. He's got, Dabo Sweeney and a few other of those coaches out there, but he'll get the right type of player. And plus UNC is not a bad place for a kid to want to go to school.
No, it's great. It really is. It's a great area. I live down in Raleigh. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Carl, listen, I've kept you longer than I even anticipated. You're phenomenal.
It's been fun, man. I'm sorry if I didn't let you talk, but you asked me a question.
I talk all day. That's all I do is talk. So to let someone else carry the reins for a little bit is beautiful.
It's, for you, I know you're very passionate about it. Our friend, Don LaGreca is very passionate about the Giants. And I just can't say this to fans without them saying, no, this ain't it. But, for people that have been around it a while and look at talent, I'm just going to say to you, there is an opportunity for them to get something done this year. They're too talented to stay where they are. I don't know what that means, right? I don't know if it means 5, 7, 6 wins, whatever, but you're going to see a team that's going to appreciably get better each week because I think they've got the players that care enough about it. They just got to learn how to do it. And the trial and error is, okay, this won't happen. The things that happened in the Washington game didn't happen in Dallas, but they made a different set of mistakes. They can't do this trial and error thing very long. So that's why I say they got to talk to each other. They got to hold each other accountable every day of the week. So they should never get over the loss to Dallas. They should always be on each other's ass about the things that they're vulnerable or susceptible to. But
Yeah.
I think as super fans, you should know that there's bones. They got the bones to really get some things accomplished this year.
I hope you're right. And I tell you what, I can't see anymore, Carl, is 14 penalties for 160 yards. That
Again,
is
right.
unbelievable. Yeah.
And look, at the end of the day, like I said, it always comes back to the coach. But that's players out there committing penalties. That's not a bad call. You know what I mean? That's not a scheme issue. That's fucking players that need to have more discipline and have more respect for the other guys that are out there not to commit these penalties because it's important. And so when it's important enough, you got to do it right all the time. And I think that's the thing. They've got the character to really get that done.
Well, I hope you're right, because it's tough to watch, loss after loss after loss, year after year after year. So I really hope you're right. I hope it turns around. You're the best. Enjoy the game this weekend, Sunday nights on national television. And I'll talk to you soon. I'm sure it won't be long, my friend.
Congratulations on this show, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. That is the great, and I don't use that term loosely, the great Carl Banks, who, again, I'm telling you the honest, I remember it. It was like the light shined down from up above when my dad walked in and said, you know what? I think Carl Banks might be. He's not as flashy. He's not as sexy. I think he might be a better player than Lawrence Taylor. And I was like, oh, wow, what a phrase. So thanks to Carl. I love that I asked about Abdul Carter wearing number 56. He said, like my mother would say, oh, bless his heart. Like, isn't that adorable? You can't wear number 56. Stump Rothenberg. All right, it's going to come your way in about 8 minutes. We're going to get to your questions. So if you have questions, here's what you do. All right, you like us. I'm going to point right to it. It's going to show up right here. You like us. You subscribe to us. And then you throw your comments, your questions. You get involved on Dave Rothenberg's Giants obsession. Comments, questions, all of it. All right, guys, let's bring in Nico. Right off the bat, I'm very unhappy with Nico because I have to wear these flopping, stupid headphones instead of the AirPods, and that I firmly blame on you.
To be fair, it worked on 2 different tests before you got here, and then the second you got here, it decided not to, log in and work.
Do you know who's not in the excuse game, Nico? Me.
Yeah.
And Carl Banks. Carl wouldn't want any of your excuses. No. So I'm wearing these stupid-looking headphones. Friday, I don't care if they work or not. I'm wearing AirPods. Okay. Even if I can't hear anybody, I'm wearing AirPods.
Fair.
All right, Steve, let me see your haircut. I walked in. It was chaotic. Steve's like, my hair. You didn't comment on my hair. Take off the headphones for a second. Let me see.
I got no gel on.
Yeah, you look good. You know what? You're this far from being attractive. Like, you're almost a good-looking guy.
Try my best.
Yeah,
I should shave for you.
No, you're this far from being somebody that I would set up with a very attractive woman.
Well, it was either I shaved today or coming to work late. So
no, either way, Joe wouldn't mind that at all. All right, so bring back Nico. Let's have both of you guys. Do we have questions? Do we have comments? Give me a little breakdown of what we have.
Yeah, we have some statements.
All right, let me hear.
So from Jake Asman, this is that is great. Dave Rothenberg discussion with the Giants and Carl Banks.
So Jake, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. All right, Jake works with me at ESPN. We've hosted shows together, and Jake is kind of the impetus behind the Dave Rothenberg's Giants Obsession show, because he has his big Jet show on YouTube. It's doing unbelievably well, and I thought to myself, if a guy like Jake could have success, then I should be able to have tremendous success, and that's kind of the impetus for getting this thing going. That might have been a backhanded compliment, Jake, but a compliment nonetheless.
He then goes on to absolutely rip me to shreds.
You? Why? What did you do?
Can your interns not read? That was not the statement I wrote.
What do you mean?
I'll run it up again. That is the great Dave Rothenberg discussing the Giants with the great Carl Banks.
Discussion, not discussing.
Yeah,
I made a couple mistakes.
Well, reading is clearly not one of your strengths, by the way.
Definitely not,
because you had that same issue last week.
Yeah.
What? You have any other comments or questions before we move along here?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
If you want to read that out,
you prefer me to read it?
Yes.
Yeah. right, this is Ryan Clifford, president. Anyone not shocked that when Dable was a hard, I guess I could say hard ass, right? And yelling at players his first year, they made the playoffs. But when he became soft, they sucked. Extend Shane and Dable. I don't agree with that. I don't think Dable was ever a hard ass. I don't. I'm confident he wasn't. In fact, the rumblings I've heard from people very close to the Giants and around the building is Dable, it's so easy. It's so country clubbish that's why the players kind of love him. But I would ask you this, when you got down to the end of that game on Sunday night, the Giants were gassed, and Carl said it, and I've said it, and you saw it. They just were gassed. And, maybe if things were a little bit harder in the summer, you wouldn't get to that point as you get to late stages of vitally important games in week 2. And like Carl said, he's right. It's getting late early. All right, you got the Chiefs, you got the Chargers. You cannot go 0-4, because if you go 0-4, this thing will spiral out of control. If you go 0-4, Brian Dable needs to get his resume ready, because you're not going to win a lot of games this season. The team they won't have any buy-in to what they're selling here. What else do we have? Anything else?
From 89 Lonnie.
Yeah.
Surprised Dave didn't switch into his LT jersey, seeing to how him and Carl were running mates.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm being as professional as I can, and I'm not going to sit here and do the show in a Giants jersey week 3. Now, maybe at some point that will change, but we're not going to.
I've already done one in a jersey.
You did. You did one in a Thibodeau jersey.
Yeah, I did.
What that was on Sunday after they lost that game. You did it. Yeah.
I just wanted to be supporting.
I don't discuss it. Well, anything else?
That's all for right now.
All right.
Yeah,
if you have anything, and by the way, based on there's always a winner and a loser between Steve and Nico. Based on the AirPod debacle of 2025 and the haircut factored in, Steve is narrowly ahead of Nico at the moment. Offensively, and that's where you can have to keep hanging your hat. Carl's right. Week 1 was not good. He expected week 2 to be better. I don't think anybody expected it to be that level of improvement. They were sensational offensively in week 2. And I think he's right and wrong all wrapped up into one when he talks about the running game. They didn't run the ball effectively. They ran the ball. They stayed true to running the ball, but they didn't run the ball effectively. And I'm at the point where I look at Devin Singletary, and he's just a guy. I think it's got to be Tracy, who I think is a plus running back, and Scadaboo is the guys getting the bulk of the touches. And the play that drove me insane, I've talked about it ad nauseum this week, was you stop them in overtime. You get the ball. Wilson has that backwards pass that sets up the 3rd and 17. It's frustrating. I get it. Whatever. You stop them again. You get the ball back again. And the first play you run is a screen pass to Devin Singletary. And you say, well, if the pass rush was crushing Russell, they didn't have pass rush the whole game. You didn't run a screen the whole game. They couldn't stop Malik Neighbors the whole game. Why in that moment did you decide, yeah, we got to run a screen? It lost 3, and then the next play was the interception, and so forth and so on. But Wilson was terrific, so you can at least table you got to make a change at quarterback right now. You did hear Carl say he does believe moving forward you're going to see more and more of Jackson Dart. I'm okay with that, especially if Wilson's not great. If Wilson's capable, yeah, I'm okay getting the feet wet of Jackson Dart. That's for starters. Neighbors was great. Robinson was great. Wilson was great. And they took deep shots. And that, I think, if you're a fan of this football team, had to excite you. The waiver wire. All right, today's Wednesday, which is Waiver Wire Wednesday. You put your picks in. We have created a little graphic here, and I want to kind of talk you through some additions. Wan'Dale Robinson is the Giants' number 2 receiver. All right. They can't run the ball all that effectively. We know who their one is. So a couple things. Either you throw the ball really well and a guy like Wan'Dale has a monster game, or you don't throw the ball that well and Neighbors get slowed down, which you'd have to think is the number 1 game plan for every defensive coordinator in the league. Well, if Neighbors is not great, or Neighbors is double teamed, or Neighbors is taken out of the game, who's going to step up? Wan'Dale, that's who I think is a must-add. DeAndre Hopkins, who was it that only catches touchdowns? I don't even remember at this point because I'm tired. But there was somebody, he only catches touchdowns. Chris Carter. Oh, that's what Buddy Ryan said about him. That's why they cut him. He only catches touchdowns. Well, you know what? DeAndre Hopkins may be the new age Chris Carter. He only catches touchdowns. But Lamar Jackson seems to like him, wants to throw him in the end zone. That's a good thing. If you're a fantasy player, pick him up. Rachaad White. Rachaad White's not getting the lion's share of the carries, but Rachaad White is clearly the 1B. So two things. A, I think you can play him and feel like he's going to get, I don't know, a couple catches, 30 yards rushing. So a low in a PPR is going to be 5 points. God forbid anything happen to Bucky Irving. Rachaad White becomes like a top 12 running back in the NFL. I'd pick him up. Tootin, I can't even say his first name, rookie on the Jaguars. Is it Biashul? Whatever it is. He scored a touchdown. They moved on from their other running back. So he's going to be a guy. If ATN was dreadful last year, Tootin is the guy that I think will wind up getting more and more time as the season progresses. This is a guy that's not rostered in a lot of leagues. Mark Andrews has done nothing through 2 weeks, okay? Isaiah likely is now getting healthy. Lamar loves him. I wouldn't be surprised. I wonder if something like that 2-point drop from Mark Andrews, either A, Lamar lost confidence in him, or B, he's just not the same player because he doesn't look like the same player right now, likely will return and likely might wind up being the better tight end in Baltimore. Nobody gives the love that Matthew Stafford deserves. You have to pick him up at this point. He's good for 2 touchdowns a game. He is an elite receiver. He's another very good receiver. He has a brilliant offensive mind. Matthew Stafford. Now, is he going to give you 4 touchdowns? Is he going to give you a Jared Goff-like performance week in and week out? No. Is he going to be consistently good? Yes. And I know this is a weird one to say. In the Shanahan offense, Mac Jones is capable. All right? Here's the thing. I think any quarterback in that offense you have to raise them up the ranks like 2 rungs because Shanahan is just that good. Is Brock pretty good? I think he is pretty good. Is he better in that offense? Yes. Same with Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a journeyman quarterback. You put him with Shanahan. You saw it this past week. He threw for 3 touchdowns. I think he throws for at least 2 against Arizona this week. So that's kind of some of the guys that I wanted to run through with the fantasy waiver wire. We'll do this quickly because it's embarrassing. And I use the term loosely, locks of the week. 1-5. Now, here's the thing. I went 0-3 this week. Minnesota, loss. I'll take it. Houston, they were 4th and 10. And Baker busts out of that 4-man pressure, picks up the first down. They scored the game-winning touchdown with 6 seconds left. So that's not a bad loss. I mean, it's a bad result. It's not a bad loss. I would have picked that game again. And Denver, the guy missed the field goal. It was a win. It was done. Leverage. They do it again. He kicks it. 0-3, 1-5. Here's the beauty. We can only go up from here. All right, guys. I don't know why, but I blame Nico for that as well. Steve, you're now dominating in the Nico-Steve intern battle. All right, Stump Rothenberg. Let's go. What do we got? Rattle them off quick. Some questions? Come on, Nico. Steve. So, Steve, you've now taken control.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Because last time we allowed Nico to run Stump Rothenberg, he screwed up the whole segment.
Yep, that's what happens.
Yeah,
so now you got me.
All right, what do you got?
I'm upset with that, but come on, Dave. You got me, baby.
Yeah, I got you.
All right.
And I think I might have the better of the 2 right now, to be honest with you.
All right. So first question on Stump Rothenberg is from Brandon G. What was the last primetime game the Giants won?
Oh, my God. I can't even think of it. I mean, they've lost. I think they beat the Packers with Tommy DeVito.
Is that the final one? Final guess?
Yes.
It was the Commanders in 2022.
I don't know that that's right.
It is right. I looked it up.
You looked it up?
I looked it up.
When was that Monday night win over the Packers? I
got
sure?
Commanders December 18th when they won 20-12.
All right. I'm gonna put that under advisement. We got maybe Nico behind the scenes because he's not allowed on camera the rest of the show. Can look up when the Giants beat the Packers in that Monday night when DeVito led them down the field for a field goal. I thought it was a Monday night. More recent than that. Nico, look it up, and when you have the answer, whether I'm right or wrong, pop on screen and let me know. All right, go ahead. Next question.
All right, so we got from David Carlson. Which Super Bowl had the most non-offensive touchdowns?
Oh, my God. Non-offensive touchdowns. I mean, the Cowboys had – I mean, it's got to be obviously a high-scoring game. Super Bowl with the most non-offensive touchdowns. All right, so now this is what takes time.
I'm not going to cut you off like some other people.
Yeah, no, I know. And hopefully Nico's doing some work to figure out what the actual answer was. Do you have an answer for me?
This brings me complete joy to say.
Oh,
complete joy.
What?
On December 11th in 2023, the Giants beat the Packers 24-22 primetime.
And when was the one that you were talking about?
22. He a full year before.
So I'm right.
You are completely correct. You get a point.
Give me my ding.
I don't have a ding.
What do you mean?
I can make a ding.
There was a ding. There was something.
Oh,
you
we
guys...
have this. Little applause for you.
Yeah. All right. How about? So, no, I don't think that's the same Super Bowl. So Devin Hester had a kickoff return for a touchdown. And then there was the Tracy Porter with an interception return for a touchdown. It's a good question.
Is David Carlson going to stump?
He
Dave
might.
Rothenberg?
You thought the other guy stumped me as well. It's going to probably be 3. How about the Cowboys ever have multiple? The Giants didn't. I'm thinking, is it 2? It's got to be 3 non-offensive touchdowns. So that's punt returns, kickoff returns, defense. All right, here's where I'm going to go. I was at this game. I'm thinking Buccaneers Raiders when Dexter Jackson was the MVP and had like 3 interceptions.
No stump for you, Dave. On a roll.
Do you see the genius that I bring to the table?
I do. I got my own Stump Rothenberg question, which I think you might get stumped by, but we do have another one here as well.
Okay.
So we're going to do Ryan Clifford's first. Which driver holds the record for the most wins in the history of the Monaco Grand Prix?
I have no idea. I mean, I got to think of who. So Grand Prix is when they do it without, like, that's not NASCAR, right? So Monaco is they just go around and around like the streets and they go zipping up and down. I'd be impressed if I could name 3, like, is that F1? Is that what that's considered?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to guess, because I think he might have done both. AJ Foyt.
No. It's Ayrton Senna.
All right.
Close.
Okay.
Do you want my Stump Rothenberg?
Well, it can't be worse than that. Yeah. When you got the question based off of F1 in Monaco, did you really think that was a great idea to ask that question?
Well, I knew it would stump you. It wasn't mine.
All right. What do you got?
All right. Well, mine is, so you know how I bleed orange and blue. Massive Knicks fan.
Big Knicks fan.
The Knicks just signed 2 former 6-man player of the years in Malcolm Brogdon and Jordan Clarkson. Who were the 3 Knicks that won 6-man of the year?
So in the history of the franchise, right?
Yes, and they had to win it on the Knicks.
Okay, so they weren't on the Knicks.
No, they were on the Knicks. They won it on the Knicks.
Right. But they weren't on the Knicks and then went to another franchise. They were on the Knicks when they won 6-man.
Yes.
Let's see. Trent Tucker could have been a 6-man of the year. Don't answer. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't think Dante DiVincenzo. He was terrific, but I don't think he was.
I love DiVincenzo.
Yeah. I think Peyton Pritchard was that guy this year. Knicks 6-man of the year. All right, let's think about this now. Is this going to bring us back a long time? So Trent Tucker's a name that Michael Ray Richardson, I don't think, was a 6-man.
I could give you the decade if you want for some of them.
No, I don't want. I want to think it through. Is this is the Havlicek Award, right? Is the 6-man of the year? I think that's what this is considered. Was Bill Cartwright? Was J.R. Smith?
That's one.
Yeah.
J.R. Smith, 2012, 2013. He's a phenomenal golfer now. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, he went back to, or maybe went to college. He had never been to college, and I believe is going on scholarship for golf.
He's disgusting.
All right, so we got. I think Jamal Crawford was, but I don't think he was for the Knicks. This is tough. Cassie Russell, could he be? Cartwright, but I think Cartwright was in the starting lineup. Maybe Anthony Mason. These are the names that I'm thinking. There's 3, and you want all of them, right?
Yes.
Let's go. Anthony Mason wasn't a starter on the team. It could be Anthony Mason.
Final answer?
No.
Okay.
Give me a moment. We'll get
All
there. We're going to extend a little bit.
No rush.
Not 100% confident, but Anthony Mason.
You are correct with Anthony Mason.
Anthony Mason is right.
Yep. You need one more.
Oh, God. All right. It's not DiVincenzo. Sixth man of the year. I don't know why I'm thinking early. Is it early 80s or is that not accurate?
No.
It's not. Is it? It's later than that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Similar range of Anthony Mason.
Anthony Mason era.
Mm-hmm.
Starks.
Yeah.
All right.
96, 97.
Okay. All right. So that's that.
I'll give it to you.
So that's that. I got that. Well, you kind of babied me, but it was a 3-part question,
right.
which we don't typically take. All right, Steve, put your arms over your head like that. Congratulate yourself. You won the battle between you and Nico. You were clearly better today, and now you even look better with that haircut. So that's it. Big thanks to Carl Banks. Thanks to you guys for chiming in, for getting involved. I'll be back Friday where we really dig in and preview the Giants and the Chiefs. Like, subscribe. It's important for you guys to do it. It bolsters our numbers, and then we become world famous. We'll do it again Friday. Also Friday, we're going to go a little earlier. Maybe a noon start, because I got to go to Parents' Weekend at my son's college. Noon start Friday Eastern. This has been Dave Rothenberg's Giants Upset.